Hello, my dear viewers. Today we have another episode of A Visit to the Inner World, and I'm here with you. I'm Olga Demchuk. I greet you, and today I've come to you with a white and fluffy little pouch. This white fluffy pencil case will symbolize us, white and fluffy. Today we will be talking about intimacy. I think each of you can recall a moment when we start to grow distant from the people closest to us. In other words, we don't feel that sense of closeness. It's as if something is happening inside us. Let's call it X for now. It's unclear what exactly is going on. And because of these processes, we begin to distance ourselves. The very same processes can also occur in our loved ones. Something is happening with them, and we can feel how they are growing distant. And this distancing, it's quite difficult for us to perceive it as their internal process. Something is happening inside them because we don't acknowledge what is happening inside ourselves. So let's recall why we sometimes feel alienated from our loved ones. Most likely something is building up inside. Some irritation builds up and it remains unspoken, not clarified with the other person. And because of this, you feel as if you can't maintain a psycho-emotional connection with them. You keep stewing over something about them inside yourself. And if a conflict breaks out, all of this comes pouring out and people start to feel close again. In other words, what has built up inside finds an outlet, a space. Inside, things are cleared out and we feel close again. I think you've probably noticed more than once that closeness often arises during conflicts. For some people, it only happens during arguments. Only in conflicts are they genuine and truly close. The rest of the time, they often pretend they're not themselves, and this phenomenon is quite true for many people, unconsciously. They provoke arguments to experience those moments of closeness and to feel free within the conflict. It's as if our psyche unconsciously looks for reasons to enter into these arguments, and within this conflict, it's as if it has run around, wandered freely. It was free, it no longer pretended, no longer put on an act, and for a while this being can peacefully coexist with another person. And this sense of alienation happens to us specifically with those who are close to us. With people who are distant, it's enough for us to simply be not close. And so we each have our own image, and it is through this image that we go out into the world. It's like a little case, white and fluffy. We interact formally within it, and it's easy enough for us with people with whom we don't form close connections. We don't get emotional about them, and this character with whom we associate ourselves sometimes seems to become our very personality, as if I really am that good, polite, wonderful person. And any inconsistency with this carefully constructed image, I will perceive with a sense of shame. That is to say, when I actually seem to deviate from this predetermined script, from the very idea, from truly playing this specific role. And it is precisely in these moments that we begin to attack ourselves internally. We are not the way we would like to see ourselves. And if we explore the insides of this white and fluffy little case, what will we see as the next layer? There will be several layers. When a person genuinely interacts with their beloved ones, most often they perceive themselves as truly suffering, as enduring the actions of others. If you talk to people about their close and intimate relationships, you can often hear quite a lot of interesting details of such expressions about how the other person is not the way they should be. And I put up with them and I suffer. Well, what else can I do? And we really like this image of ourselves as sufferers. That is, we suffer and endure. And of course, in these moments, we forget that others are also putting up with us. And if you talk to the other spouse, they will also tell you how they suffer and endure. And in this suffering and endurance, a person almost refuses to understand that they are suffering and enduring someone else, someone who is not as they wish, not the way they want, how they should be in order to match some character in my own world. So in actual fact, we often suffer and truly endure not the real, tangible actions of the other person. And if my personal idea of the world is very simplistic and doll-like, then I will inevitably have to endure a great deal and suffer a lot more. In suffering, a person likes themselves. They so kind, so compassionate, but in this suffering, they fail to notice their own arrogance. That is, I endure the imperfections of others. That's why, to symbolize this layer of our personality, I chose this, you see, a fancy, shiny little purse. Because if we set aside our pure and fluffy, innocent selves, we are still very much willing to show our second shell, the shell of suffering and enduring perseverance, this imperfect world. But if we look more closely at what is inside this suffering, we discover a third layer, and this third layer is the layer of anger. Let me lay out our layers for you. Here we are, pure and fluffy. Here we are, suffering and enduring. And here we are, angry. Why am I so certain now, and why do I say with confidence that there is definitely anger in us? Because the world is not the way we want it to be. This is a world that irritates us. This is a world we are dissatisfied with, but while we can acknowledge our suffering and patience, admitting our anger at the world is much more difficult, because anger seems to immediately strip us of the right to be good and proper. In other words, if I am angry, I can only be angry about someone or something. I'm not angry by nature, rather I'm angry because of someone else. And so, a person who pretends to be too good and innocent too often, when they start talking about their suffering, they demand that others respect the suffering, that others respond to their expression of pain, as if it were a matter of being right. In other words, the person doesn't reflect on why they suffer so much, why there is such a disconnect between their expectations of what close relationships should be and what they actually are in reality. And a person who talks about how much they endure and suffer, very often, without even noticing it, shifts to angry shouting and resentment. For example, when clarifying a relationship, if you say to someone, "There's a certain coldness between us, what's going on?" Let's have an honest conversation about what's happening. And this question is perceived by the person as a signal that it's allowed. At this point, they bring out their suffering, and within that suffering, there is undoubtedly anger and dissatisfaction toward the other person. But it's as if the person themselves denies this anger. And they say, "Oh, I'm suffering so much, I'm enduring so much, how much more can I take? You're unbearable," and so on. In other words, the person doesn't recognize their anger as anger. But if you have an honest conversation with yourself, and this is something I managed to do with some people, in the course of my work, at some point, a person begins to realize that they have a lot of anger. The world is infuriating, people are infuriating, people aren't the way they should be. And at some point, there is finally a reconnection with their own anger. That is, the person realizes that they have a lot of dissatisfaction. A lot of dissatisfaction with this world, and upon discovering this dissatisfaction, the person finally begins to truly understand their relationship with the world and with other people. So, in principle, I can go around saying, "You're not the way you should be. And for this reason, you're not the way you should be. And for that reason, you're not the way you should be. You're not the way, you're wrong, it's not good, it's not the way it should be," and so on. In other words, as soon as we remove the mask of being sweet and innocent, as soon as we take off the mask of suffering, we find quite a dissatisfied, grumbling person underneath, someone who only refrains from grumbling because they understand the consequences. If I constantly present myself as dissatisfied, an empty space will form around me. Other people will scatter because who enjoys hearing that they're not good enough all the time? And this alienation that arises, it's when I haven't expressed my dissatisfaction to my loved one for a long time. In other words, our alienation develops in relation to another person, specifically because a lot of irritation has built up and I don't talk about it. And many people, after finally expressing all of this, letting it out, by letting go of this, they can once again enter into that psycho-emotional connection. So we've discussed what happens between two people, but a similar process also takes place within ourselves. How close are we to ourselves? How sincere are we with ourselves? After all, intimacy arises precisely from sincerity, and when we talk about a person's relationship with themselves, if we're lucky, this can also happen with another person. Behind this anger, there is still a part of ourselves. Finally, it's me. So in fact, in order to achieve intimacy with ourselves, we need to shed the layer of being good and fluffy, let go of the layer of suffering, let go of the layer of anger, and then at last we discover our true selves. We develop a sense of closeness with ourselves. Let's go into a bit more detail. When we are angry or suffering, when we are caught up in this anger or suffering, we have a sense of being right, a sense of righteousness and goodness. Because I suffer, because I am good, the world is wrong, or I am angry at the world, which is bad and wrong. So in these two states, we have a claim that I know what is right, I know what is good. And here, a person simply cannot make meaningful contact with the outside world, because the world always seems like a truly hostile, aggressive, and utterly repulsive environment that the individual completely rejects and shuns. In these two shells, a person is in opposition to the world. A person can experience exactly the same emotions towards themselves. If we take this character, righteous, good, invented, artificial, puppet-like, then this character seems to feel the same suffering and endurance towards our real self. Recall the moments when you watched yourself with shame, or when you looked at your reflection in the mirror with shame and patience. Just like when you look at others and think, well, this isn't great, that isn't great, and this, well, what can you do? In exactly the same way, we look at ourselves, and under such a gaze, we begin to feel shame. We lack closeness with ourselves, we reject ourselves, we don't accept ourselves as if this imagined character actually exists. And this real me that we see in the mirror, it's somehow not very good. You can tolerate it, but it's not great. Or we might feel anger towards ourselves. When we're angry with ourselves, when we attack ourselves, when we feel indignant, in fact, we are creating for ourselves. The very same scandal that we might create for our loved ones, when we lash out at ourselves with rage and hatred. So in fact, our relationship with ourselves is not unlike our relationships with those close to us. We either endure and suffer with a sense of superiority, believing we know what's right, or we become angry. A person is constantly under this pressure. He's afraid of his own anger directed at himself. In this anger towards oneself, there is no closeness with oneself. There is no intimacy. It is a rejection filled with indignation and anger. A person believes that he is wrong, even repulsive. And in the same way, he may think about other people from the perspective of his imagined persona. It's either anger or arrogance, but there is no closeness. There is no intimacy. Let me make this even more clearer by using myself as a personal example. My sense of closeness with you, specifically with you, my viewers, here I am, and I can play the role of the pure and innocent character. The one who says what you want to hear, who tells you how awful everyone else is and how wonderful you are, who says that it's all childhood trauma, that it's all because you weren't loved enough, but that you are actually amazing. I'm pure and innocent. I say what people want to hear from me. And if I already realize that something is off with this theory where others are always to blame, well, okay. But how do I actually change my own life? Then I might be afraid to be honest because I fear that my audience will look at me as if I'm pathetic, wondering what nonsense I'm saying. Or they might get angry with me thinking, what is she even saying these things? And if I am under the pressure of these perceptions, then I won't say what I truly want to say. I won't be sincere with you, and there won't be any closeness between us. I don't have that closeness with myself, and I won't have it with my audience either. How close is our relationship? Do you feel any emotions in response to what I'm saying? I think you may feel anger or a sense of superiority. She's talking nonsense, or even direct anger toward me. And in this way, a kind of closeness arises between us as well, because at the very least, I am drawing you out of that role you are playing. You see, this is still closer to the real self than if we were only talking about something purely nice and fluffy. And if I haven't dealt with my own inner anger, with this arrogant, contemptuous patience of mine, then it will be quite difficult for me to be with you in this closeness. Still, I took this significant step, and I am being completely open with you, as much as public activity genuinely allows. I am being truly sincere. I am sharing with you my genuine insights and experiences. And when a person has something to give from their real self, others begin to be drawn to them as well. Because if my real self possesses knowledge and experience that are valuable to others, then I will be able to build truly genuine and meaningful relationships with my viewers, and a sense of a like-minded community will organically and naturally emerge, creating a welcoming and engaging space. We are sincere, and your comments are truly sincere as well. I believe that I share a sense of closeness with my viewers. You trust me, you write comments. I do my best to create the highest quality content I can for you. And the only way I can foster even more closeness is by changing myself. I continue to gain new knowledge. Those who have been watching me for many years can see that I am changing too. I strive to become wiser, to share something new and interesting. And this sense of closeness remains. I know that many of you have been watching me since the very beginning of my YouTube channel. By the way, let me know how long you've been watching my YouTube channel. So ladies and gentlemen, what about your sense of closeness with me? Try to reflect on this closeness using my example. Is it there or not? And try to have an honest conversation with yourself. Do you feel a sense of closeness with yourself? And this closeness with oneself is what determines whether we can be close with other people. Of course, it also depends on others and on how they perceive us. But closeness requires a response in return from the other side. But if a person does not have closeness with themselves, or if they mistake closeness for venting their anger, or if they think sharing how someone hurts them is closeness, or if they present themselves in a formal, flawless manner, as an impressive character who has nothing genuine from themselves, then I will not achieve closeness with anyone. And the stages of evolution occur exactly as I have shown you. At first, when a person gets to know themselves, they see themselves as pure and innocent. Then they discover a lot of suffering and grievances. After that, they uncover a lot of anger. And when all of this subsides, the real self finally emerges. That is, as long as the world is perceived through emotions, through innocence, softness, idealism, suffering, or anger, there will be no real connection with the world, because here, my own sense of being right always prevails. Here it is about my own domain, but the real self, which has no right to make claims, which simply exists as does the world, only appears later. Only later. So take a look and share in the comments where you find yourself. Are you in the innocent and gentle stage, the suffering one, the one who already acknowledges their anger, or have you already discovered something else? your real self, which relates to this world without pretension. And let me remind you, there will be an emotions workshop. We will be deeply exploring the crucial concept of emotional intelligence, delving into its various facets, and also examining the importance of empathy, which is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. I hope that after this workshop, emotions will become more recognizable for you, because when a person cannot claim their emotions as their own, they cannot manage them. And because of this, many of life's benefits become inaccessible to them. For example, personal fulfillment directly depends on how well a person can withstand emotional tension during this process. And with you about, I haven't mentioned yet, there is an ebook. The first ebook is available. There will be a link under this video, or you can visit the website. You asked me for an ebook, and now it is available for purchase. Now I am saying goodbye. See you soon.